Ready to exhale, where we find our peace. I said what I said, false reality, our sweet breeze. Together we rise, there's power in our voice. Sisters in strength, united we rejoice. Let's breathe in power, lift each other. In this sacred space, we are one another. Let us breathe in God, lift each other. In this sacred space, we are one another. Do-do-do. 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 Do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do. 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 Ready to exhale.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Waiting to Exhale channel. I said what I said. And welcome, everybody, and happy Wednesday. How's everybody doing today? Today is going to be a great show for me. I'm excited for today's show, and it looked like some of you guys have expressed that in the chat. I see Jay Blake say that she was excited about this interview because this is going to be an exclusive interview from Miss BoogieDown. And I feel like mostly everybody is aware of her and know her because, she's been on several different panels from several different channels, including my own channel, which is the I Said What I Said channel. But today we're on Waiting to Exhale. And, I promised you guys that we were going to try to at least do one interview per month on this channel. And it is the end of the month. So, promise made, promise kept. And I really appreciate her taking the time out to come and give us her perspective and to give us some tips and skills that we can use when we're trying to land that perfect job, as the promo said that I put out last night. And so, welcome back to the Waiting to Exhale channel. I know we've been kind of MIA for a minute, but we're back in full effect. And so we plan on being here every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Now that life is through kind of lifing for us for a minute. You never know what's going to happen around the corner, but for right now, we're good. Okay. And so as long as we're good, we're going to try to come on and get the show started. And so let me go ahead and speak to everybody that's in the chat. And then I'll bring Miss BoogieDown out and we'll get this show on the road because she doesn't have very much time. And I don't want to take too much time because, we're on limited time as far as her interview goes. And so we'll go ahead and get the show started. And bear with me 1 second. Okay, so let me just speak to everybody in the chat and welcome everybody in, and then we'll get this show started. Okay, and if you guys haven't already, please go ahead and hit the like button. Um, so that we can get in the algorithm with this channel. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing to the channel and share it out as well, so that others can catch this show, because I feel like it's going to be a great show today. And so I want to welcome in Jay Blake. Hello to you. Thank you for joining us today. And I have my little sis Vic to the Veil here. Welcome in, Vicky. I have my sis, Alice, blessed child of God. Welcome, welcome. Hello to you, Twala. Welcome, welcome to the Waiting to Exhale channel. And I have Get It Together Wellness. Wanda, welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, sis. And Miss Mad About Music, hello to you. Welcome, welcome. Glad to see you here today, sis. And Scorpio Mama, hey Scorpio Mama, welcome, welcome. Glad that you can make it this afternoon, ma'am. Hello to you, Leo lady. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. I'm gonna have to get this time frame right, because I'm thinking about morning, evening, and night. So hello to you, Shadow Storyteller. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here this afternoon. We appreciate everybody's presence, and thank you all for joining us. And I have Shelly C, my moderator, and Vicky is a moderator also. But I always like to shout out Shelly C, because I sure appreciate her, wanting to be my very first moderator. So she always have a special place in my heart. And thanks for joining us today, Shelly C. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And so I'm going to go ahead and it looked like I spoke to everybody in the chat. And if I missed anybody, please let me know, because I definitely don't want to miss anybody. Everybody's important to me, and we appreciate everybody for joining us this afternoon. But let me go ahead and bring Miss Boogie down on the stage, and we're going to go ahead and get started with this interview. Hello to you, Miss Boogie Down. How are you doing this afternoon?
Hey sis, I'm good. I'm good. How are you? Hold on 1 second. I have to
I
accept
think
your
she's muted,
terms.
guys. So let me
No,
try
no,
to
no.
unmute her. Miss Boogie Down, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's making me sign off that I understand the terms and conditions. So let me
Okay.
check that box.
Okay. Well, we can hear you. I see your avatar moving, but it looked like you're still on mute. So can you try to unmute your button again for me, because we can't hear you, sis.
Can you hear me now?
Let me see if I can unmute you. Give me 1 sec here.
Okay.
Okay. So say something now, Miss Boogie Down.
Can you hear me now? Okay. Jay Blake says
Okay,
you can hear.
maybe if you maybe
Maybe.
drop down and come back up,
No, they're saying they can
because
hear
this
me.
thing is not allowing you to unmute. It's not allowing me to unmute you. I don't know what's going on here.
The
Let
chat
me
is
try
saying
to
they can hear me.
let me get rid of that,
I don't
and
think
let me
you
try to
can hear me.
unmute you one more time. And if I can't unmute you, then you may have to drop down and come back up.
Okay.
Let's see here. Hmm. That's how technology go, guys. You're always gonna have some glitches or what have you.
Can you hear me?
Um, but I don't know what's going on. But Miss Boogie Down, can you just drop down and come back up for us, and then maybe that'll work for us.
Okay.
So why don't you try to do that, sis? Because we can't hear anything that you're saying. Okay. So she's gonna drop down and come back up, and I do apologize for the delay, but you know how I go. Um, Technology is technology, and I see Lady T Bug has came into the chat. Welcome, welcome, Lady T Bug, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. Um, let me go down to your comment because it looked like you said that you've been sick. You say, hold up, hey, okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now, and that's why I wanted you to go out and come back in because sometimes it's technology. Hey to you, Reef and Musk Mom, thanks for being here this afternoon. Um, you said y'all can hear her now. Okay, good, great, and you guys can hear me too, right? Hey, Ebony, thank you for being here this afternoon. Glad to see you making it to the show. Hey, Tanya B, sis, thanks for being here today. Welcome to the show. You say you've been down sick. Oh, Lady T Bug, I'll call you later on. I didn't know you were feeling bad. I noticed that you didn't have your show, and so I didn't know that you were under the weather. I think Scorpio Mama said that she was under the weather also. So definitely, I'm going to give you a call after the show. But welcome to the stage, everybody, Miss Boogie Down. So let's go ahead and get this interview started. So, Miss Boogie Down, can you give us a brief introduction of who you are, even though pretty much everybody know who you are, but just in case on the replay or just in case some people not familiar about who you are and
I
what
was born in 1973 as a white woman, and then I became a black woman.
and you was born
And
by the river
I was born on a bayou.
on the bayou. Okay, now.
And like my sister Sonia, I was a white woman at first, but I reversed and became a black.
So you
But
were Becky with the good hair.
I was Becky with the good hair. I still got the
Okay,
good
girl.
hair. They let
Okay,
me
girl.
keep the good hair.
All
They
right,
let me keep
Becky. All righty
it.
then.
But all joking aside, first and foremost, hey everybody. It's always fun being on these different panels and just interacting with what now I call my virtual family. Is it's amazing. But pretty much yes, that part. They tell the two truths and a lie, right? So obviously the lie is that I am not a white woman. But I was born in 1973. I'm a Harlem native of New York. And my family relocated to the Bronx when I was in elementary school. And I was pretty much raised from there until moving to Georgia about 7, 8 years ago. I'm number four of five children. So I am very vocal um, because I had to let my presence be known. I'm not the first girl. Hell, I'm not the last girl. And then I got two older brothers as well. So yeah, it's always making myself known to my parents and to my siblings and setting my own stage, if you will. Um, my mother was of Caribbean descent. She is no longer with us. And my dad is Macon, Georgia baby. He's a Southern man. And my mother is second generation American on her mother's side, and she was third generation American on her dad's side. And they were from Barbados. Both my grandparents have preceded her as well in death. And they, I don't know, I had an amazing childhood. I'm a New Yorker at heart. So in my older years, relocating to the South, it's been an amazing journey because it's taught me just how much sometimes in life you just got to sit back and relax. Like as a kid, we often came to the South, and being from the city, my cousins used to want to come to us for the summer. But we always was sent to the South because both my parents were working parents. My mother was a nurse, and my dad is a retired police officer. Um, and yeah, instill values. Education was always instilled in us. Having three girls and two boys, my mother was very firm on letting her daughters know. And that's the good part, in my opinion, of the Caribbean side of my roots. Very much. My mother was a very confident woman, very confident. Um, she was like, when she was a kid, she used to joke. She was like, they used to say like her and her sisters weren't cute little girls, but you couldn't tell her that she wasn't a beautiful queen and stuff like that. So she was very dark skinned, long hair, very petite or whatever. And so I guess back then, born in the 40s, not really the flavor that they savor, so to speak, but she never let that stop her. And so, and my sisters and myself, we are very, very, very much confident women and very much had a very good role model. My mom didn't take no nonsense. She was about it. And my dad always used to say, I'm the man, but she wears the pants. Like, and I mean, physically, clearly she didn't hold the notch next to him, but you couldn't tell her that she wasn't a giant. And when she walked in the room, her presence was known. So as a little girl studying that, that's all I ever wanted. Like I want my presence to be known, but not just necessarily being known. I just want to be having something to say. And um, and I want to be heard. I'm very much open to conflict and dialogue, and because I do believe that we are a melting pot in this world. We all come from different backgrounds and different cultures, and we got to stop looking at that as uh, a form of how would I say it? A form of disadvantage and look at the advantage because we can all learn from each other and we can all grow from one another. And my strengths are, you may be weak and I can help you, and where I'm weak, you can help me. We just got to stop looking at each other at and our differences as being handicaps and look at it as being pluses so that we can all build up one another. But in saying that and giving you that brief dialogue about myself, it'll give you more of an input as to how I ended up in the field that I'm in. I have a double bachelor's from Virginia State University, class of 96, and I was a major in human resources and child psychology. When I first graduated from college, I went into the social service field. Um, and I worked with families personally. Again, this is just Miss Boogie Down speaking of her life experience and not here to judge anybody else. Too much, too much um, pressure is put on those fields. And coming out of college, I don't care, in my opinion, how mature I was, because again, I have three older siblings. So I spent a lot of my youth and my early teens around older people. I definitely was not prepared for what was out there. And I really felt like I wasn't in a position to be able to really contribute the way that those families, I worked with single mothers, and I really couldn't, I had no life experience. I had my childhood, and although I had some bumps and stuff, for the most part, I had a really good childhood. And I didn't have the resources or knowledge, I'll say, not the resources necessarily, but I didn't have the knowledge to really be able to help these people get to the level that they needed to better their life situations for themselves and their kids. So I stayed in that field for about 3 years. And in that 3 year time, I lost my mom, and it changed my life. It truly, truly changed my life. I went into a light depression, and didn't even realize I was depressed. And how I figured out I was depressed was because I went to the doctors. I used to always go to the doctors. And get my annual physical. Like I said, my mom is a nurse. So coming from that background, we stayed, with our health and stuff like that. My mom died from congestive heart failure. She was only 57 years old. And so I was 24. And when I'm conquering the world, life throws me my first real curve that don't sleep on tomorrow because it damn sure isn't guaranteed. And I had experienced death with grandparents and stuff like that. But my mother was number three of four girls, and she was the first one of her mother's children to pass away as well. So this was a first for our family. Indirectly, my mother was everybody's favorite auntie. This was hard for us. My mother was very close with her sisters, and so my cousins are really like extended siblings. That's how we looked at each other because we were raised very closely. And you would think I would be closer with my dad's side of the family because my dad is the oldest of 10 kids, and he's the oldest of the 10, and there's two boys, him and my uncle, and then they have eight sisters. So, but my mother and her sisters were very close, and therefore the kids were raised more so together. You know, you went where your mom went. And so the family functions pretty much dominated on my mother's side. So that's where we pretty much went to. My dad being a police officer and often having five kids, often taking like security jobs because he was an off duty police officer. So a lot of different venues would hire him to be like a security guard and stuff like that. He always made sure that we had enough. I have the little running joke that, I didn't know we were poor until they said it. And even then I was like, they lying. We rich. These people crazy. But at the end of the day, um, I was rich. You couldn't tell me my family wasn't rich. I had two parents in the household. We all had the same mom and dad. Um, and we were raised that way with each other. And so having said that, getting back to my origin, losing my mom changed my life in the sense that I became very numb, and then I became very rushed. So although at the time my now ex-husband was in my life, he was not supposed to be my husband, but he was there. And when I tell you, no matter what I may say about him and no matter what trials and tribulations we go through, that man was he was a king for me. And I'm so grateful as I'm tearing up. I'm so grateful that I had him
Oh,
in my life. Yeah,
right.
because he really and so when we follow these stories about Shirley, I had, I could have had a nest though, because I put everything in him because I was so lost and I was so hurt and I was mad at the world because I did everything right. I didn't bring no babies home. I went to college. I graduated. I did what I was supposed to do, and God took my mother. That was my mindset. And he would often just remind me, and he was like, listen, I'm no pastor and I barely know the word, but what I do know is that God brought you in my life, and I had the pleasure of meeting your mom, and I promised her that I was going to make sure you were going to be good. So I know that it may not seem that way, but I'm going to be that blessing that you need. And I'm going to be that reminder of why God is still an awesome God. But I never became an atheist. I believe that God was real. I've always had that. But I did not love the Lord. I did not trust the Lord. I did not, I wanted no parts of going to church or anything. So, needless to say, um, I was at my job, and I had a single mother. She was a Latino young lady, Spanish Puerto Rican, and the little girl. They came to the office, and this is when I knew it was time to change careers. Came to the office, and the little girl was kept saying "Poppy, Poppy," which is daddy, and I said to her, "How dare you?" And I said, "You sitting here and you're asking us for food stamps and you're asking us for housing, and you got this damn man sitting here. Don't you know that this could affect you and your kid from eating and stuff like that? What's wrong with you? You're sitting up here and you're letting him. He doesn't have any pride. He doesn't have any shame. He's not a real man. He's got you here asking for handouts. If he was a real man, he'd take care of you and that daggone baby of yours." And I said, "You better hope I don't report you. How dare you come to this damn facility asking for a handout and ask for help, and you bring this man here with you and you act like you don't know where he is so that you can get benefits for yourself and for your daughter." And I had, at that time I was engaged, and I
Well,
I
well,
felt.
hold up one second, Miss Boogie Down.
Mhm.
So basically, this is like one of your first jobs out of college. Is
This
that
was
correct?
my first job out of college. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so that first job, you were what? Because we're
So at
finished
this
with your
point, I'm about,
introduction. Yeah,
right, I'm
we're
about
finished with.
24, 25 years old, in that range.
Okay, and what job did you, what was your job title at that time?
I was a case manager for New York City single parents. So you could be a dad if you had custody, but you had to be a single parent with basically no knowledge or known whereabouts of your what do we call them, partner.
Okay,
And so I was very passionate about what I did, but what I was trying to say to her, and I had to check myself at the door after the fact, was, you're bringing him here, but you're telling, because I see Lady T Bug is saying you can have a man on your benefits. Yeah, but I work with
and
single
and
people.
and what time frame was this? Give us the year that
This
this
was
that
about
this happened.
2000,
Okay, so
99,
in the
2000.
late '90s, early 2000s. Okay,
Uh-huh.
okay.
Uh-huh.
So I just wanted to give
Yeah,
that reference so
absolutely.
that people would know
Absolutely.
what time frame that we're looking at, because things have changed, but they also still stay the same.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
so what I was telling her was that she was putting her benefits because she claimed to not know where this man was. And that was a big thing back in the day. I mean, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure it still goes on, but I've been out the field for over 25 years, so I don't proclaim to know what's going on presently. But at that time, she put her benefits in jeopardy by having this man bring her to there, um, to find out. But basically, what he wanted to know was what she was getting in terms of her benefits. He wanted to know and control her money that she was getting. But remember, now at this time, he was not supposed to be in existence. That's why we were giving you the extras. We were going by what you had. Um, it was just for you and your child or children that you were having a problem taken care of because you had an absent father, and you had no whereabouts of him. The government has gotten, in my opinion, wiser, but being as though New York is a blue state, they were very, very lax on that, like I said, in the 90s. Now, again, I don't know where we stand in 2025. I'm not even really in contact with people who are still in that field, but at that time, oh, it was very easy to come in with your one or two kids and be like, I can't find the father. And they didn't do very much research. And if you had a situation where the father didn't sign that birth certificate,
Mm-hmm.
um, man, listen, Lady T Bug, I have no idea what that program was at this time. But like I said, it was
Well, it
not,
sounds like it's, I don't
it,
know what the when you get the government assistance, it's called the welfare check.
right. It was a
And,
welfare.
yeah, and I just
It
don't
was
know the
through
correct
welfare.
term for New York.
Yeah. Like right now they call it like SNAP, but it wasn't called SNAP back then.
Well, SNAP is different. That's the food assistance program.
Right.
But the check is called a different
But
name.
that's what I'm telling you. Through New York, all of them were incorporated as
Yeah,
one.
as one.
It's like
Okay.
your check, your benefits, all of that was incorporated through one. You had a government ID that you took, and that was everything. Like, let's say on the 17th, you got your food stamps. You got on the second of the month, you got your voucher. It was all underneath the same program. Um, but at the end of the day, like I said, being as though New York, being a blue state, and always being a blue state, it was just easier to New York, New Jersey. It was easier for them to get um, those types of benefits, and things of that nature. I mean, these people would get, vouchers to live in the housing project. They didn't even go and have us, like, I mean, we were just overworked. They didn't have us go. like we announced when we were coming to check your house and stuff like that. So of course his stuff was put away, and his, we didn't know he was there. There was no existence of a man. It kind of reminded you of that movie Claudine, you know what I mean, when James Earl Jones.
That's exactly what I was thinking about. It reminded me of Claudine.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's saying that it's called temporary assistance. And if you in the food stamp program, but if you receive both, it's called the electronic benefit
Okay.
transfer.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you had to have a card with that, and a lot of times, like
Yeah,
I said,
with the
you got a
EBT
voucher.
card. Yeah.
Now they call it EBT again. Remember, we use
Yes.
paper food stamps. It looked like money, stuff
Yes,
like that. You
exactly.
remember that? So yeah,
Yes, yes.
things have changed. They've
Yeah.
updated, like I said, and I haven't been
Well,
in that
well,
field.
let's clarify that, because back in the day they were called food stamps, and now that you have the EBT card, it's called SNAP. So they
Yeah,
kind of changed the name a little bit, but the welfare
absolutely.
checks are still the same. They're still known as uh, the what is it called? Dependent children,
Yeah,
AFDC, and that's aid to families with dependent children. So that's probably what that program, TANF, that's what the name of the program was. In case because she asked that question, and I
yeah.
wanted to look it up so that they can know the exact name. But it's all welfare program, government. I call it all government assistance.
Public assistance, just like Lady T Book just said, that's how we refer to it. Even when I talk in these terms today, I know my language is outdated, but it was public assistance.
Exactly. Yes.
And so that just gave me an eye opener. I felt like, God gave me a gift, and He also, even though I was still mad at Him at said time, but I wanted to go into, now I had a double, bachelor. So what I then decided was, I was like, you know what, maybe I'm gonna try this human resource thing. Maybe this is just not for me. So now at this time, I had become a mom, and um, my son was just a baby, and I just remember looking in his eyes, and at this point I just, I wanted to improve my relationship with God. I wanted to forgive God. I wanted to get back into, like, motherhood changes you. It really does.
Yes.
I know people say, like, it's a cliche, but it really does. Like that young man, I mean, I had a stepson, and but he didn't live in our house at that time. And so to actually carry this life and look in his eyes and know that I was responsible for him, it was a different feeling. So I decided to come out of that field, because I felt like if I was going to be um, not helping the situation, then I didn't need to be a part of it. If I wasn't going to be a part of the solution to helping people get on their feet, and I was going to be judgmental of these young ladies, not really aware of the fact that they too have their own origin stories, right? Of how they got there. And if I couldn't look at it through clear eyes and unjudgmental eyes, I felt like it's just time to exit stage left. And so, in doing so, I got an opportunity, just through my ex husband, one of his co-workers, who he too is now, he's a lieutenant and police officer, like my dad. And so, his one of his co-workers, his wife was working for our utility company, which is called Con Edison in New York. And I had an opportunity to get into the utility company, and the benefits were excellent. The pay was really good. And I got to go in and be like, okay, this is cool right here. Like, maybe I'll give this a shot. And so, back then when you worked for social services, you had to give them, in order to get like all of your accrued time and stuff like that, you had to, it wasn't 2 weeks notice, you had to give them 30 days. And so I put in basically my 30-day notice. And I took some time to myself and enjoying my baby a little bit. And then 3 months after I resigned, I started my job with the public utilities in 2000. And I loved it. I was a recruiter, and I shadowed our senior recruiter at the time, just getting a flow. And I was just like, this is my calling here, interviewing people. And I learned very early on. Now keep in mind, I'm still under 30. I'm about 27 years old. And I'm learning how, man, you better start interviewing people. You better know how to interview people, because I'm telling you, what we see on paper, have mercy. It is either underestimating your value and what you bring to the table, or overestimating, right? So you look at these people and they gonna put down what they feel is their best attributes and stuff like that. And then you get to the interviewing process, and baby, what I seen, what I heard. Oh my gosh. I was just like, okay, this is life. This is what we got going on. And I had some of the most amazing times when I was in recruitment before going into HR management. I did recruiting for about 3 years. And when I tell you the different things, like, so at this point, okay, like I said, I don't want to be all over the place. I'm in the public utilities, I'm working for the electric and gas company. And so I would get requisitions, we call them recs, for filling positions in different departments, whether it be customer service, whether it be, a utility worker, somebody who's on the poles, things of that nature. And so I would get these recs. And so you had different directors and VPs of certain departments, and they needed, like a receptionist, or they needed an administrative assistant. Back then they used to always use this phrase. It was called a guy girl Friday, which means pretty much did a lot of different things. You did clerical, you did administration work, you did receptionist work. Like I was tasked with filling these different positions when we would get these recs from the different directors and the managers for the different departments. And when I tell you, like, it was my first learning experience of just how much we don't know, and how much, we're not versed with even teaching our kids when it comes out to how to interview, how to dress for an interview. I mean, these are the basics. And then I got to see on the corporate side of how people who on paper, um, you're like, okay, they meet the qualifications. But then when this person came in, this person did not match what was on this paper. I see you have a degree, but you're speaking to, or you come in dressed like like you don't want the job you have, or the job you're going for. How are you going to be a leader, and you're coming in and you look like, one of the peasants, if you will? You know what I'm saying? Like, it amazed me. Unfortunately, I didn't even know the art of negotiating your salary. I learned that from the Caucasians, because when I got my job, um, I was told what the salary was, and I was just like, okay, I can do this. And at that time, now I'm newly married and I'm a mom, and I go home and I discuss this with my, now ex-husband, but husband at the time. And I'm like, yeah, they're offering me, I want to say, shoot, my first salary, I thought I was making good money. It was like $40,000 a year. And then these people that I would be interviewing, when we call them to offer them the position, and you're going over the benefits and the salary, they were like, yeah, so what is the starting salary? And, it's like, oh, the position starting at 45,000, blah, blah, blah. Okay, would it be wiggle room for maybe about 52 or 50? And I'm like, well, this is the starting salary, but let me go to the recruiting, let me go to the hiring manager and let me go over that. Is there anything else? And then I learned from them. So I was just like, and then a lot of times, yeah, the management would come back. And so you told me that this position is starting off at 45, but now you're offering this person 50 or 55. And I was just like, wait a minute, you can do that? Nobody told me that. I had two jobs right out of college, and nobody told me that. You know what I mean?
So I'm sure you were surprised to learn that you actually could negotiate your salary. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
so now,
So
look
how did? Well, hold on a second. How did
at,
you feel at that moment when that person asked you, was there any wiggle room, and could you, could they negotiate that,
I,
the
I was
salary
like,
with you?
this idiot done lost her damn mind. She ain't getting this job. Like, I
So
really,
you run the impression that it is what it is. This is what the rules
right,
say, and so
right.
I don't. Yeah. So, but let me check on that. But at least you were aware enough to go and check on it and just didn't
Well, I had
shoot
no
the person
choice
down
because
right away. Yeah.
no, I didn't have the power to shoot them down. And that was the blessing in this. That's what I'm telling you. I
Yeah.
had to go back. It's like an attorney, right? You got to still let your client know what the deal is, even if you don't agree that it's a smart thing to do. You still got to let them know what's being offered.
Exactly.
So in this field, again, I'm getting the requisitions from the hiring managers. So all I can do is go back and say, hey, the candidate that you had, Victor DeVale, she wants the job, but she wants a higher salary than what you're offering here. And she wants to know, is there wiggle room? They're either going to say yay or nay. I was just thinking more so like, and not knowing business again. I'm now at this point, I'm about 3 4 years out of college, so I'm still relatively very inexperienced and very young. I just didn't even know that that was an option. And that's my whole point about knowing, and I always bring it back to knowing your worth and knowing your value. When these companies and these jobs want you for the position, you already got the leg in. And I don't think enough of us know that. You now actually have the advantage because now they actually have made the offer, which means what did they do? They stopped looking at other people. So therefore, you got the ball in your court. Now you can negotiate on certain things. Now, again, if you're cool with what you're being offered, and there are going to be times that you don't know. I mean, that there are going to be times, excuse me, where something is set in stone because with our personal conversation, and I'll throw that out there as well. I listened to, I worked my way through college and working for banking. I worked for a traditional regular bank. I worked for Chase Bank, which was a company by the name of Chemical Bank at the time, and then they merged with Chase. And then I went to the credit union that I was working for, which was under Kraft Foods Credit Union, and they were at that time owned by Intamins and Philip Morris. And so when you came in there, the salary was where it was. So if they started you at 18,000, that was the salary. The only way you had wiggle room is if you had spoke another language or something like that. You know what I'm saying? And so therefore yes, because now I'm bilingual, so I'm bringing more to the table than my counterpart. And even though they may be doing mass hiring, I got a little bit of a leg up because you are going to have foreign people come in. So if I speak French, if I speak Spanish, if I speak Italian, if I speak Mandarin, if I speak Russian, that's going to build up my resume. So you will have certain jobs that the salary is the salary, but where you may have an extra wiggle room is if you speak another language and stuff like that. But working for a utility company, right? And this is my second, if you will, technically corporate job because I worked in the banking industry, but it's my first real job, if you will, out of college. Now I'm learning, like, because of the people that I'm interviewing and recruiting, I'm learning, oh, okay, I can ask for more and stuff like that. So then what would
let,
happen?
let me ask you a question, and not to cut you off,
Yeah.
but I just think this is important. Do you feel like that us as people, we're so excited to get the job and we just hoping that we can land the job, so we don't ask the question, can the salary be negotiated, or do we just not know that the salary can be negotiated, or is it a combination of both?
It, and then I'm gonna add another factor to it. Again, now you got to remember when I came out into the workforce, my mother was no longer with us. That was my confidant. I told you in the beginning of this, like that's where my confidence came into because my mother poured into her daughter. She poured into her sons as well, but she poured into her daughters about knowing our worth. Now that I'm getting out in the workforce, I'm not having the parent there that basically could show me how to navigate when I got into the workforce. So even starting off in the social service realm, I probably could have negotiated because why? I noticed when I got in that field and I was in it for 3 years, I noticed that some of my coworkers were working their way through school. I already had my degree. So had I known that, why should I be making more? I mean, why should I be making the same as somebody who doesn't have all of my credentials? So again, those two factors that you um, may excuse me, those two factors that you mentioned are definitely key components, but I'm also going to throw that third one in, which is having that person when you are navigating in life and when you are starting off at life, either a having someone there that you have that you can go through this with, because now I got older siblings but I'm not talking to them and they're not talking to me about getting out here and interviewing and stuff like that. They're out here doing what they're doing, you know what I'm saying? And so and they were parents at the time. All three of my older siblings were already parents by the time I graduated college. And so at the end of the day, they got their own life to live. But that key component right there, that person that I had who was navigating me even through getting my degree, and talking points of, like I literally got into college and I was very good in math, and my mom was like, I think your people skills would serve you better. And at that time, looking to go, because I went to Virginia State to actually go for engineering because I was very good in math and equations and science, physics, stuff like that. And so I was just like, but my mother at that time, and being a woman, sometimes we hinder our kids. And so she more so encouraged the strengths that she knew that I had, which was my people skills. I've always been a people person. I've always enjoyed people, and I've always been a cheerleader for my friends, for my family. I want to see you win. If I'm not winning, damn it, one of us better be winning. So I can appreciate your winning, even if it's not my season. And so now again, getting into this workforce, I didn't have that. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have that person there to help guide me. So again, those first couple of jobs that I took coming out of college, I did not even realize that that was an option. Like I said, I learned because I'm a good steward of being around other people, and learning from said people, and picking up what they're putting down. I learned that now this is an option. So now in my mind, although I'm happy with my salary, don't get it wrong, and I'm happy with my job, but I knew like I'm gonna move up in this company. And now when they offer me my next promotion, because I'm already speaking that and manifesting that in my life, yeah, what they telling me they gonna give me, I'm gonna ask for at least 10 to 15 more. And if we can land about 7 to 8, I'll take that. And so it was those baby steps and it was those life lessons, because again, what we forget is we don't learn from, while we're going through the experience, we're not taking notes on our life experiences as well. So because I sat back, and because a few people, and it was always non-black people, they just were not. Blacks and Latinos, we were just the first ones. As soon as whatever they made us an offer, we were so grateful to get the job. No, the fact that they offered you the job is because they need you to help build their corporation. And when you start learning that, then your negotiation tools come in, and now your self-worth comes in. But because we are just happy to get the job, like you said a little earlier, yeah, we're just complacent, like, yay, they chose me. Okay, now I'm just going to come in and I'm going to do what I got to do. No, 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 no. It's now the tables have turned. Yeah, I came to you wanting this job. That's why they tell you don't quit the job you have when you are looking for another job. Stay employed because you're more marketable. You know why? Because if they really want you, they're going to pursue you. But if you don't have a job and you're interviewing for a job, they kind of feel like they got you by, with your pants down. And in some cases they may have. Now you do have some isolated instances where people either have a nice little nest egg and they're not in any rush or whatever. But for the most part, you're kind of like, if you don't have a job and you're looking for a job, you're kind of like at their mercy, as opposed to, you know, you can even translate this in life. Most people are more attractive when you see they're with somebody else. So let's
So,
go.
so would you say this is more prevalent when you're thinking about corporate America, or as far as they have the upper hand when you don't have a job,
That's
or or
every
do
job.
you or do you feel like
Everywhere
it's
you're
everywhere?
looking, when you're looking to work for anybody, and that's what we need to get out of thinking. Stop putting everything in one box. Always look at it as a big picture. I don't care if it's a babysitting gig to a damn VP gig, right? If I know that you're watching Mary Jane's kids down the road and those kids are always happy and they're always doing what they got to do, I want her to be my babysitter. I want the best for my kid. But now, if I don't know anything about you and you're coming to me and you want to watch my kids and you're telling me of the different things you would do, you're more marketable when I see you already in action versus when I don't know what you bring to the table. So
Yeah.
therefore I am going to lowball you. But now if you um you have a job and you have a good job and you're in the field that we're looking to hire for, and you're telling me, I'm not happy where I am, I'm looking at my options, but you're still employed. Well, they didn't get rid of her, so she must be good at what she does. So I'm going to
Mhm.
come to you with a better offer than the person who's been out of work for a few years. And unless there is certain life circumstances, because you'll have, like in our cases as women, if we have a partner or a husband, a spouse or whatever at home, and we can take more time to be at home with the kids, I am looking at you differently as opposed to somebody who just can't land a job for the past 2, 3 years. And this way, I'm like, well, wait a minute, what the heck is going on here? Why is nobody hiring her? So even though you may have the credentials, I'm not putting a rush on trying to get you. But as for where Scorpio mom, she's coming in there and she's got a job and she's sitting up here and she's like, yeah, and this is what I can bring to the table. I'm listening to her more because she's already currently employed. And I know she knows what to do here. But now this other person, it's not to say that they're not going to be good for my corporation or good for my entity. But at the end of the day, I'm looking at what somebody else already has. And this is what gets us a lot of times in trouble in life, too. I'm looking at the appearance of what somebody else has, and I'm looking at what you're telling me you can do for my company, and you are going to be my candidate and my front runner as opposed to the person who hasn't been doing anything for the past few years.
So that holds true for a promotion also, because
Absolutely.
when you're trying to get a promotion, same thing. You're
Mhm,
excited. You just
mhm.
want, you want a leg up. You want to move up. So you recommend to go ahead and try to negotiate that salary also, even though there's other competitors.
Absolutely. I already have a job, right? So I've already you got to look at we got to, we don't like this for the most part. A lot of us, I'm not going to say everybody cuz some people, they like him, but for the most part, we don't like this man in office presently, right? However, he does drop a few gems, and being though he's a fellow New Yorker, I remember he used to, he wasn't the worst person on the planet as he's becoming. But back in the day, Trump used to have a phrase, and he used to say, scared money makes no money. If you ain't willing to bet on yourself, why in the hell am I betting on you? Just like when we talk about relationships. And like I said, that's why when you and I were talking, and I was like, it's about knowing your worth. These rules can be applied to everything. We're just sticking right now on the topic of employment and knowing how to market yourself. But in life, you want to be able to show that you got that confidence in what you're bringing to the table. You want that person, if it's your dating life, you want that company, if it's your employment life, you want people to know that having you on the team is going to benefit them. None of us should ever aspire to being with people that are going to bring us down. Now, we don't have to be, even in our personal lives, we don't have to be on the same level. But if you got that potential and that confidence to get on my level or above my level, then let's make it do what it got to do. Because at the end of the day, you're going to miss 100% of the shots you don't take. But I can take that shot and I might get that basket. You have to apply these types of rules in life, period. But again, because we're segueing this specifically about jobs, let's keep it there. So, yes, now the bonus about getting a promotion at your present place of employment. And this is when I was able to put that in when I went from being a recruiter to then a senior recruiter, right? You already know what you getting in me. That's why y'all are sitting up here encouraging me. And especially if you're getting encouraged by your management and they're telling you, hey, we're going to post this job, apply for it. That's one of your go tails right there. Now, it's not a guarantee that you're going to get it, but it's a guarantee that you are being talked about whether you know it or not. Behind the scenes, they talking about you because now your management is telling you apply for that job. Know your worth. So now, okay, you want me to play for this team now? All right. So what's the perks and benefits? Why should I leave what I have? Because now I done got comfortable in this position, right? And so you're encouraging me to move up, which is a good thing. But now, why should I want to come play for your team? I'm comfortable with the team that I have. So what are you going to offer me that my other team is? Well, we're going to increase your salary by 3,000. Nah, that ain't good enough. I'm gonna need you to go better than that. So if you can give me three, technically a company can give you a range of like typically, even with your promotions, right? They can give you typically there's wiggle room for at least 15% more than what they're actually first offering you. So keep that in mind, right? So you're offering me, and I'm just using numbers so that we can just keep the math minimum. You're offering me 10,000. You probably got a budget of about 15 to 20,000. So I'm going to try to go for that range of 15 to 20. Even though you're telling me it's starting at 10, I want to go for that range of 15 to 20 so that I can go above what you're saying because you're going to negotiate. So you're not going to give me the full 20, right? But you might get me closer to that 15 as opposed to me just settling for that 10 because now you're in that wiggle room. And especially when you go in for a promotion for a place that you've already established a reputation. And if you are being encouraged by management to apply for the jobs, because they do that, right? We hire internally. And if we can't find anybody, then obviously we'll go external. But you already got a foot in the door. And you got an advantage that somebody outside of that doesn't have because they already know your characteristic. They already know what you bring to the table. And so we gotta keep reminding ourselves, it's like that infamous, you come from a sales background. I said what I said, always be closing. So therefore, yeah, you offering me 10, what about 15? What about 20? I mean, it depends on the field that you're in or whatever have you. And you know if you want the job. So you probably overall would settle. But even if you only get 12 out of it, it's still more than what they brought to you. And that shows them as well that you're a closer. Like she's not going to just settle or he's not going to just settle for what we're throwing at them. That person's a closer right there. And that to me, in these corporations and looking at these hiring managers, they kind of got like a little sadistic type of thought process. But that shit is sexy as hell to them. Like they're like, okay, Okay, well, we're not going to give you 15, but how about 12? Well, okay, how about 13.5? Like, you got to still keep going with those numbers, even if you're okay with settling for the 10. Keep going. See how far you can get. And then they're going to tell you, okay, well, we really would like to bring you on board, but this is the most that we can do. And if that's what you want, close out right then and there. But that just lets them know that you know your value and that you personally aren't just going to settle for whatever somebody is giving you. And you know what else it tells them behind the scenes? You're not going to just let, because they're hiring you for a position, right? And so they're hiring you to take care of tasks that they necessarily in higher positions aren't able to deal with during the day. So they know whenever you bring a contract to them or whatever your field is, they know, okay, I know that if this is what they brought, like she took those negotiating skills. This is when we were trying to give her this job. She didn't just settle for what we got. So I know that this is probably for that company a final offer. And this is, what they're saying that they'll close it out on. So they're also going to trust in the fact that you finagled and negotiated the best price offer to get off whatever this product is or whatever that you're upselling for the company. Now they see your strength. But if you always sitting up there, um when it comes to like them offering you just whatever, you're gonna get what you put out there. You get what you put out there. I gotta let you know that I'm worth XYZ. That's it, and that's all. And like I said, you're not always gonna be successful in it, but I guarantee you this: you weren't successful if you just took what they had anyway, right? So, worst case scenario, you're not worse off than where you already landed. They already offered you the job. And at the end of the day, we pretty much get a range of the salary range while we're interviewing. So, you know whether or not you want it or not. And so if they're telling you, okay, well, the job is going to pay 50,000, in that range, and then you go ahead and you interview and you hear what you like or whatever have you, you've already made up in your mind whether or not you want the job. Why not get a little bit more out of it? Well, can we negotiate that? Can we look at something like in the 60 realm or 55 realm or something like that? And then they're going to let you know when that wiggle room is. And I'm telling you, I have seen it often. At least on a high 70 to 80 percentile, they will always negotiate what they're offering you. But what I have often seen is that us as a people, men and women alike, brown people, we do not even know these things and we don't come to the table, especially when we're first coming out in the workforce. We don't do it because we don't know that it's actually a tool there.
And that's so unfortunate because that's how we miss out on our money. That's how, and they also tell you, when you're employed to not, talk about salary.
Hmm.
And sometimes you find out that your coworker is making more money than
Yep.
you. And the only reason why they're doing that is because they negotiated their salary and you didn't.
Yep.
But
Yep.
I feel like that's one of the reasons why they tell you not to talk about your salary to your coworkers,
Yep.
so that you won't know because um, it's companies are in the business of keeping as much money as possible to themselves. So
Hmm.
they're not going to give you all of the secrets. They're not going to give you all the tricks and trades of negotiating your salary because you are in HR, and normally HR explain your benefit package to you. Is that correct?
That is correct. So
And
Ebony asked
they
a really
don't
good
give you any
question too.
tips. Yeah, they
They
don't give you any tips on how to negotiate a salary or anything because you're already hired. So what they're there to do is just to tell you the rules and regulations and guidelines and what your benefits are.
There you go. There you go. And we don't share enough information. Let me tell you something, a very bad myth that we think. We think that these white folks aren't talking to each other, I beg to differ. See, the one thing I don't do, and and me and my ex-husband used to talk about this, because he pretty much wanted to surround himself with his comfort zone, which is pretty much people of color. And I get that. That's on you. But me, even when I went to high school, one of my closest friends, Kenneth Lamb, till this day, Asian dude. You know what I mean? Because I always just was always open to just other cultures and stuff like that, right? And so what I noticed, like I said, because I came in the field looking and I was just like, like these white folks, yeah, they do. They huddle up and they talk about things and stuff like that. And they even help coach their friends and stuff like that. Hey, oh, you going for this? Okay, ask for this and do this and this. Black people, we don't do that. Like Lady T Bug made a point. She said crabs in a barrel. But I wanted to go back to Ebony. Ebony said, please explain how I negotiate raises and merit increases. Now, unfortunately for merit increases, they're going to pretty much be a standard. Merit increases are usually cost of living. So it's pretty much going to be around the board. Like most companies will do like 2%. Um, and stuff like that. But your raises, you can always, always, always negotiate. And I'm going to tell you what is another big thing that we do too much of. This is what we do as Black people. That ain't my job. When you're asked to do a task by your management, the worst thing you can say, I don't care what you think, but what you verbally express, like, I don't get paid to do this. I don't get paid to do that. You are being evaluated the entire year. And part of doing things sometimes, now I'm not saying get in the habit of always doing free labor, but some of the things that it shows me as your management is that you're open to learning new things so that when other positions do open up, I'm thinking about you first because you're helping to grow your department. You are working outside of the box. That's one of the things that you always want to be doing. Your raises is based on your product, your productivity. Your merit increases are a little bit harder. Shoot your shot. If they're telling you 2%, ask for 3. But more than likely, you may, if you're lucky, you may get 2.25. It just depends on where it is. But as far as your raises, that's where your benefits come in. I often would be when I was not, especially in a higher management position, I often always wanted to help out my teammates. Oh, yeah, I can help you with that. Again, I didn't make it a habit. But what I did was I made it be known that I was willing to learn more and therefore willing to take on more so that I can add that last part so that you're paying me more. Because now I'm showing you I'm an asset to your establishment. You always are basically on an audition. You know what I'm saying? But keep in mind, so when it comes to your raises, that's you. That's all you. That's what you bring into the table, and that's you telling them your worth. Like I said, your merit raises, those are just going to be typical standard because a merit raise is basically a cost of living, and they never really match the cost of living, right? I mean, chicken went from like a six pack of like $6, $7 to like $10, right? So they're never really matching that part. But as far as your raises, always, like I said, think what you want. But when you verbally are being known to your department and to your area as that person who's not really a team player, when it comes to giving you your raise, they're going to give you the bare minimum. You know why? Because you're not really contributing to the team. You're doing your part. But when it comes to me getting my raise, it's not only about me getting a little bit more because life is lifing and things are going up. But I also want to show you why you want to give me more than the average because I'm more than an average worker. I'm contributing more than the average to the success of your department, and we got to just get like more comfortable with the fact of not only knowing our worth, but stop being so verbal on the negative side. Stop always looking at it as when you're asked to do extra tasks, that they're trying to get over on you. Sometimes indirectly you're being tested and you don't even realize, because we know behind the scenes and the management side we're about to offer these types of positions, and we know kind of like where the salary ranges is going to be. So they're looking to see, you know what, Tanya B here, she's a good worker, she does XYZ, let me see what else she's capable of. Hey Tanya, I know you don't normally do this, but I'm gonna need you to sit up here with Reef and Ruff's mom, and I want you to learn how to do this, and just be a backup to her for when she's not here. Instead of being resistant and being like, "Oh, okay, well, Reef and Ruff mom, that's her job," or whatever have you. No, just be like, "Okay, no problem. As long as I can fit it in, because always let it be known I got to do what I got to do for my task as well. But absolutely, I'll find a way to factor that in so we can schedule some time to learn this, that, and the third." You just gotta always, always, always look look for the opportunity to show them that you're willing to contribute to the team. Because when you work in a department with others, remember you are always on a team. You are not by yourself. So therefore, we got to cover all the bases in management. We got to make sure all the positions are covered, and we got to even make sure when you're not there, when you're taking your PTO, or if life happens and you got to step down for a minute, we got to still make sure those departments are covered. So we got to see where our strength and numbers are, and we got to see where our strength and our employers are, in our departments. Because at the end of the day, if you're a good management, you got your whole team trained to not only do their jobs, but to do your job. You know why? Because as a manager, I know how to do your job and mine. So I got to always look at it. In being a subordinate, you want to look for the same thing. You should never want to be stagnant. Now, you get some people, hey, I don't really need to work, I'm just doing it to get out the house or whatever have you. Okay, well then that's fine. But if you're goal orientated, in a sense of, because not to say that they're not goal orientated too, right? But that's a different mindset. If you're looking for a career and in your establishment, then you want to always be able to show you want them to always um, you always want to be able to show them that you're the asset that they need on their team, no matter what. Even if your job is not in jeopardy, things happen. Like look at Amazon per se. They're in the process of laying off what, like 30,000 employees in those corporations. I know right now, in their corporate offices, them people are scrambling right now because departments and stuff
Hmm.
like that is being closed out. And so now these people are figuring, oh snap, what am I going to do? So you always want to show that you not only have the ability to do your job, but you have the versatility to learn other areas and be able to do that too. Because a lot of times what these jobs will do is they will eliminate a department, eliminate positions, and then they will just recategorize it for something else and maybe take one or two responsibilities away, right? And then they'll add that, but yet and still what you were doing is no longer a job title and stuff. And so they want to try to downsize and offer you less money. And you don't want that. No matter what the company is doing, you always want to be able to show that you're an asset and that you're worth what you're making plus some. It's just because it's a doggy dog world out here. You know what I mean? And these employers, even with
Hmm.
the encouragement of, like I said, with the Amazon situation, I don't even understand how you're laying off jobs because you guys are you're in the red. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not in the red, excuse me. You're like, you're profiting like, like nobody's business, but yet they're taking these positions away. You know why? Because they're bringing more automation into facilities like Amazon and stuff like that. And pretty soon, the people in the warehouse are going to have to be mindful because these folks, um, man, they different. You know what I mean? They different. This man is worth about $230 billion, Jeff Bezos. Like you could actually take from your own net worth to keep these 30,000 people employed, and it still ain't even going to put a dent in your worth. But at the end of the day, the rich get richer for this reason because they now stop seeing humanity and they now definitely, start seeing the benefits of like just making more and more and more. And they'll never in their lifetime be able to spend what they're worth, which is hilarious, right? But at the end of the day, in their mind, you would think they're just, working from paycheck to paycheck like the rest of us. And so, yeah, you have to realize your worth, and you gotta always be shooting for the stars. And like I said, now don't get discouraged if you're not able to negotiate it the way you want, but you're showing your employer that, okay, this person ain't gonna just stick with boom what I'm giving them. They're always going to be looking to make a little bit more. And like I said, depending on what type of department you're in and what type of company you work for, they know that the same negotiating tools you're bringing to the table when it comes to yourself, you're valuing their dollar the same way when you're handling it and you're dealing with vendors and products and sales and stuff like that. And that's, that's a big key. And like I said, these life tools, even though we're talking right now about the workforce, these can be applied as well in, your dating life and in your married life. You always gotta know who you are and what you're bringing to the table, and know that that person is having you by their side. It's a bonus, and don't forget that it's not about thinking you're better than. It's just knowing that I am that bitch, I am that dude, and look at what, and we're gonna enhance each other. You know what I mean? But when we get into this, that's why I've never liked that little
Right.
holding you down. I hate that. No, I'm here to hold you up. I don't need nobody holding me down. I know we don't, look at the metaphors and think of it like, oh, I don't think people mean it negatively. I get it. It's a cool phrase. I'm gonna hold her down. I'm gonna hold him down. But at the end of the day, no, boo, I need you to hold me up. Because I'm gonna hold you up. You know what I mean? So, hey, Vaughn, how are you?
Hey, Miss BoogieDown, I'm fine. How are you? Before you say anything, I've been listening, and you're doing a great job.
Oh, I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I said what I said. You back up?
Yeah, child. I'm over here trying to make this avatar quit talking when you're talking, but like I told you before, it's something that you have to spend a lot of time on. But and I can't get my picture avatar on here because I have this programmed in. So I'm gonna have
Got
to get with Minion on how to switch those two out. But I've been enjoying the interview, and I'm enjoying the great tips that you're giving us, and I think they're valuable tips because I saw Tanya B in the chat said she didn't even know that she can negotiate her salary. She didn't even know that it was such a thing, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on, just so that in case somebody didn't know or don't know how to negotiate their salary, because Ebony did ask, how shall I, negotiate my salary, what are the two, the tips that I need to know how to do that. And at the end of the day, I think this is valuable information that we all need. And like Vaughn said, you're doing a great job of explaining. And we, once again, we do appreciate you taking out your time, um, taking the time out, to provide us with this information.
Well, I appreciate you guys.
Right.
It's a blessing, and this is something that I wanted to say from when you guys first and started doing this. This is what, especially as and it's not to exclude our brothers, but Black women. This is what we need to do more of. We need to support each other, and we need to build these platforms to help us. Like I said, my overall goal is humanity. I don't really care what color you are, but where I see the struggle out here
Yes.
in the workforce is our people. So that is my target audience. But I'll help anybody. And
Yeah.
you got to even look at how the system is designed when we use the word minority. I want people to realize, like, even that, because you'll have people have this argument and they're like, well, every corporation has to have minorities in it, especially if, they're, a publicly traded company and things like that. And I'm like, yeah, and you know what you leave out? You forgot who else is a minority? White women are minorities. You know why they're minority? Because they're women. Women as a whole, we are all minorities. Indian women, black women, white women, Asian women, Spanish women. We're all minorities. So
Well,
guess
they
even
and also too, to piggyback off of that, they actually make up a great what was it, 60 or 70% of the DEI workforce. And when you hear the politicians talk about DEI, they, in my opinion, they don't know what they're talking about. They're just trying to use buzz and code words, for people, people of color, and didn't really realize. And even some of the white women didn't realize that they were DEI hires.
right.
And so when that came out, when everybody kind of came out against that, they were highly surprised that some of them lost their jobs because they didn't, like you said, they didn't recognize that they were DEI hires. But
Mm-hmm.
that's why it's always a great thing not to be a gatekeeper.
Mm-hmm.
And I totally agree with what you said about helping anybody, because I'm the same way. Whatever knowledge that I have and that I can share and provide, I'm just that person also. I don't like to be a gatekeeper. And whatever information that I know, I want you to know it to see if it can help you along the way.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's why it's real important to understand and know, like you said, know your worth, know your value,
Know your
know
value.
know what you can negotiate, know what you can get away with, what you can't get away with when you're looking at these jobs. But one thing that I want you to discuss with us is I feel like, and I haven't been in the workforce in 11 years. It doesn't seem like it's been that long. It still seemed like it was yesterday. But I thought about it, I'm like, wow, I haven't worked in a while. But one of the things that I really had a passion about and really wanted to do, but never was able to get that done, and that's to help our young people
Mm-hmm.
on what professionalism is, how to approach an employer when you
Mm-hmm.
go into a job interview, what you should wear. These days, a lot of people have piercings, they have body tattoos,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like sometimes you're discriminated against because of your artistry that's
You
on
are.
your body.
You
And
are.
so, can you give the importance of hair, dress,
Yeah.
appearance, and
Absolutely.
and just really professionalism on how to land a job, because you've told us how to negotiate your salary, what you should be asking for. But I think it's also important too for people that may want to enter the workforce that's just straight out of college,
Mm-hmm.
or haven't never really had a real what per se, quote unquote, an important job or higher salary job. So can you tell the
Absolutely.
people
Yeah.
how to achieve and accomplish that also?
Absolutely. And thank you for asking that because I did start on that a little bit in the beginning when I was talking about my recruiting experience, but then I all automatically veered toward asking for your money. But so what I noticed in my early part of my human resource career, like I said, I started off, I was a recruiter. I actually did recruiting for about 7 years in total before I went into management. I was a recruiter, then I became a team lead, then I became a senior recruiter, and then I became an HR manager. And all of this was within a um, 7 to 8 year span. And so part of it was, and I said what I said, and I had a private conversation, and I'll share a little bit of a gem with you. When I first was in banking, right, I worked for when I left out of the actual traditional bank, I worked for a call center. So obviously, with a call center, and at that time my mother was still alive, so I was being guided on different things you ask. And my mother always used to say, I don't care if it's just one question. When that employer asks you when you're trying to get a job, do you have any questions for me? Have a question about the job that shows the employer that you're interested, and that you're not just, even if you are just interviewing to because you just need a paycheck. They don't need to know that. You want them to think that you want to come there and you plan on spending your lifetime at that place. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, so when I was about 20 years old, and I interviewed, excuse me, with a woman. She was a black woman too. of a department. She was the manager, and her name was Felicia Hudson. And I say her name because I don't know if she's out on these YouTube streets, but I always said if I ever run into Felicia again, I just want to say thank you, sis, because you gave me a gem that you don't even realize you gave me, that 32 years later I still carry with me. Anyway, I interviewed with Felicia Hudson for this credit union job that I ended up getting, but I did not get hired for her department. And so I interviewed with Felicia, and she was just like, well, why do, like, why would you want to work here? So that kind of threw me for a curveball. Mama didn't teach me that one. She taught me to ask the questions about the company, but she didn't teach me that question, right? So, I'm free balling. I'm 20 at this point, and I'm like, oh, snap. And then I'm just like, well, at the end of the day, I know, like, no matter what, we have to use money to be successful. So I feel like coming from having worked at a bank, even though I was only a bank teller, now going into like a credit union, I'm learning more of behind the scenes of something that we're going to need in life to succeed every day, which is money. And so I feel like this credit union can basically give me the blueprint of how I should be able to structure myself so that when I finish college and I start, my career, I know exactly like how to budget myself. And then when I go on to get my own place and buy my own car and things of that nature, this is going to be the blueprint for me. So I want to start now, even though I got a couple of years of college left and stuff like that. And before I start getting myself out in the real world, I want to learn from here. And then she was like, okay, excellent. And then, we kept going with the interview. And then she was like, all right, well, I appreciate everything. This was definitely, very, very good. And she was just like, oh, do you have any questions for me? And then I was just like, yes, being as though this is a call center, what's the dress code? And she was like, oh, very good question. She was like, well, we do allow sneakers, sweatshirts, and jeans because, again, you're over the phone. We don't have company here in terms of people coming in like you do at a bank where customers are coming into the office. She was just like, but off the record, can I share something with you? And I said, absolutely. She said, my module in Cree is always dress for the job you want, not for the job that you are A, applying for or have. In other words, if you're coming into the call center every day in a sweatshirt, sweatpants, and sneakers because it's allowed, just know that even though nobody on the outside may not see you who's calling in or whatever, but management and upper management is in the office with you. So they're watching you. They're watching how you carry yourself. They're listening to you. They're monitoring you on the phones. They're listening to how you talk to your customers. So again, dress for the job you want. Now, if you're okay with just being customer service over the phone, and that's what you aspire to, then dress very comfortably. But if you're looking to go into management and go into and prolong and have not this just be your job but be a career, then you want to dress for that occasion. And I'm not telling you to come in with a suit all the time, a blazer and nothing like that. But I'm just saying you might want to look into like, just even casual wear, slacks,
Yeah, that's how I dressed every day for work.
yeah, a shirt, stuff like that. Because I did. She actually let me walk through the call center, and I was looking at the people in the call center, and I swear the only person that I saw, and it was about, she had in her department, she had about 12 representatives that she was over, and I say 10 of them was in they kicks. They was in they jeans. She had a couple of people. They had their HBCU, sweatshirts on. I was like, oh, what it do, But at the end of the day, when she said that to me, it just made me realize, like, oh, okay. And she was like, but you look very nice for your interview. You look very comfortable and everything. And I was just like, yeah, I go to church, so I'm used to wearing a nice shirt, blazer, skirt or pants or, stuff like that. And I was just like, but okay. Now she called me herself personally, and she was just like, she was not going to hire me for the position. She said, however, I was so impressed with your interview that I passed your information on to my colleague, a gentleman, Italian dude by the name of Pete Sestito, and just be looking for a call from him. So I would say about 3 weeks to a month went past, and I'm just, doing my thing and whatever have you. And I get this call, and the first thing he says, and I can tell like he's got this right energy. And I just love it. And he's just like, so I just need to know, why do I need to meet you? Because Felicia won't stop talking about you. And I laughed, and I was like, in my mind, I didn't say it out loud, but in my mind, I was like, but that bitch didn't hire me. Like, she gonna hire somebody else. So what's she talking about me for? But I didn't say that. I was just like, oh, okay. I was like, yeah, she's wonderful. This, that, and the third. And, I interviewed, he brought me in or whatever have you, and he hired me right there on the spot, and just basically asked me what was my availability and when could I start. So I say that to say that even though now, had I tanked that interview and had I not maybe asked her the questions that she felt like, that I showed interest in the job, even though she pretty much probably already had her candidate involved and that's who she hired, she basically, I left enough of an impression that I was able to get with Pete. So now we go into coming into the work office. Now, I didn't have a lot of office attire to that sense. Again, I'm 20 years old, I'm in college. Um, and, I'm in Virginia, and stuff like that. And so, but what I'm noticing is like I would come in and at least like 2 to 3 times a week I would come in and I would just have on shoes or shoe boots and pair of slacks and a nice open, shirt. And my mother always used to teach us as well. Back in the day, most jobs you had in the corporate scene or a banking scene, you got paid every 2 weeks or twice a month. So my mother used to say, just every time you get a paycheck, buy yourself like a shirt, buy a pair of pants, buy a pair of shoes, stuff like that. And you'll find that within a year or two, your wardrobe will actually be built up. And sure enough, it was. So that when I did graduate and I came back home and I left that job, I came back home to New York at that time and I was ready to go. I had my gear ready. I had my career face on. I had my career gear ready. And I haven't been stopped ever since. You know what I mean? Even when I dressed down on a Friday, I always had on a nice blouse, maybe a pair of jeans, nice little fitting jeans, and I wore like a nice pair of shoes. I don't get too comfortable with coming to work unless I'm, driving to work or walking in the office. But when I get in the office, I put my shoes on. And so now the interviewing process and how a lot of people cost themselves jobs. Ladies, especially those of us of color, please do not take this as a judgment or as an offense. But you don't want to come in there with your beautiful nails and all of these daggone imprints on there and your hair matching in terms of the color, matching your like attire. For instance, I had a VP in one of my departments that was looking for an administrative assistant. Well, when you come in to his office and he's meeting with business people, you are his point of entry, right? They are looking at you and you are a representation of him. I had a wonderful young lady type 90 words a minute, was very, very advanced in her Excel skills. She could do pivot tables and stuff like that. This man did not want to hire her because she came in, she had a nice little bob cut, but at the end of the tips of her hair, she had royal blue and it matched her nails. And her nails were very long and she had very pointy and it looked like she got a fresh little, fill in and all that other good stuff. And I'm sure her toes were matching. But at the end of the day, when she came in and he saw that, he immediately, I can see it in his face, he knew how to speak politically correct, but it was just like, yeah, that's going to be a pass for me. Mind you, he never even looked at her credentials. He never even paid him because her appearance, it just threw him off. So now you also have the body piercings. Me personally, when I came out in the workforce, I had an earring in my nose. Never went, you would never know. You would never know I had an earring in my nose. Why? I did not go to no interview with that. I have till this day on one side of my ear, I have four piercings. On the other side, I had two. That's the things we did back in the days, right? However, when I came on my interviews, when I go on my interviews, I wear my first hole and I wear a pair of studs, no hoops. I wear a nice pair of studs. I always have my hair down, or even if I have it pulled back, you can't really see all of the holes. I don't come in with that. And I haven't, well, first of all, the hole is closed now, but I had not even worn my nose piercing since I was like a recruiter. Once I got the job, once I passed probation, that's when they saw that I had a nose ring. And then I just stopped wearing it. Um, Getting back to the body piercings, people, cover up your piercing. You can be, if you are coming into a job where you are looking for somebody's corporate job, your body and your expressions and things of that nature, it is just that. It is your freedom of expression. But guess what else? It is also that employer's freedom of expression that they don't want you representing their company. Now, they're not going to say that to you, but I'm telling you, I promise you, on everything I love, that is why you're not getting the job. You have to come in and you have to cover up your body art, especially for those of us who have tattoos on our necks. Wear a buttoned up, collared, buttoned up shirt. You want to make your tattoos, your body art, you want to make that non-visible if you are trying to get into somebody's corporate job. That's it, and that's all. It's not fair. We can debate it backwards and forwards, but at the end of the day, you are asking somebody to take a chance on you, and they have an idea of what they want to see. Let's get into our hair. You can actually have braids. If you have box braids and think, pull your hair back, put it back in a bun. What you don't want to do is draw attention to the wrong things when you are interviewing. Body piercings, they're distracting. Um, Tattoos, they're distracting. So you want to have less visibility of that, and I want you to see me. I want you to hear me. I want you to focus on what I'm saying and what I'm talking about. I don't want you getting distracted and having your eyebrow raised like you're the damn rock. That's not cool. They're judging you. And again, it's overall politically incorrect. That is not what we're supposed to do. But I'm telling you, it's what's being done in the discussion. So come in and have the focus be about you and what you can bring to this corporation and to the table. You can have your natural hair. It's nothing wrong with that. Get the job. Get the job. So again, pull your hair back. Wearing all of this, listen, I get it. I'm a black woman. I've never been myself personally into the weaves. I have been a hair into the braids though. But as far as the weaves, that's never really been my thing. But that big hair, it needs to be tapered. It needs to be pulled off of your face. And on top of that, we want to see you. I want to know who's sitting in the office. You got all of this hair and all of this stuff going in your face, and this is coming from a black woman. You got all of this, going on. It's distracting. Nobody is focusing on what you're bringing to the table and what you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? That's it, and that's all. I get it. But you got to realize in life, we are always playing the game. Don't hate the players. Hate the game you're choosing to play. So if you're gonna play that game and you're trying to get in these corporations and you're trying to be taken seriously, first take yourself seriously. Seriously enough to not come and have folks focusing on the wrong thing. I want you to focus on me, the bad bitch that I am, and what I'm going to do with you and for this company. That's it, and that's all. That's it, and that's all. Makeup, very light. You can. Some of us have blemishes. I get it. Some of us have. I went through a phase in my late 40s. I mean, in my late 30s, early 40s. I actually ended up with adult acne. Never, other than we used to call it the period bump. I never even had pimples. But at the end of the day, in that time frame, it was just like, oh my God. So of course, yes, I went to a dermatologist or whatever, but I completely stopped wearing like makeup. I would just wear foundation to just cover like the blemishes to make my skin tone even. All that eyeshadow and all of them long lashes. Again, listen, I'm not here to judge you, but this ain't the club, and you ain't going out here looking for a man. You looking for a job. You looking to take care of yourself. You looking to take care of your family, your kids, if that's what your story is. So you gotta look the part. You gotta play the part, right? Everything when we're interviewing is like being on TV and being an actor. It is an audition. And you can't get mad that because I wrote this script and this is the vision that I have, you can't get mad that you're coming here looking some way and I'm not picking up what you putting down. I'm not doing that. I want you to be a representative of my department and where I'm trying to go with my department, which is to show we the baddest department here. And I can't do that if you're coming in here with the fashionista stuff. If you're a thick woman, stop wearing clothes that draw attention to your features. Me, I have big legs and a big ass. Always have. Okay. I'm about damn near 5'7" or whatever. So I got height to balance it out. I'm very statuesque. But guess what? Although I may like a mini skirt because I got beautiful legs, you can't tell me different. That ain't what I'm coming to this damn interview with because I want you to focus on what I'm bringing to the table. And I don't want you focusing on who you think is going to be your little jump off at the workplace. No, I'm here to work. I'm here to take care of that business. You know what I'm saying? If have like some people have come to interviews and I've seen them still pull it off. If you have a nose ring, like I said, me personally, I took mine out. But if you have a very small, like diamond little stud or whatever have you that's in there that's really barely noticeable, you can pull it off. I'm telling you personally, I don't agree with wearing the nose rings and I don't agree with wearing all of the earrings to cover your holes if you have multiple holes in your ear. I'm telling you, I'm looking at it and I am, like I said, a black woman from the streets of New York, hung out in the hood and all of that, love my hood folks, but like anything else, there's a time and place for everything. You're coming with a job, coming in for a job, and you want them to know you can trust me with this task, and I'm going to make you proud as well as make myself proud. If I come in and I got all this big hair and I got all these long pointy nails and I got all these damn little rhinestones and stuff on there, I'm now taking away from the value of the person, and now I'm becoming a distraction. And that's the one thing you don't want to do. So personally, for the nose ring, don't wear it. The body art, cover it up. Cover it up.
So after you land the job, can you go back and maybe put your nails on or your nose ring or show your tattoos or whatever after you land the job? Or is it
Tell
better
you
to kind of keep it all covered up?
I'm gonna tell you this. Like I said, when I was recruiting, I went back to putting my nose ring in. When I passed, with any job. Please wait till you pass your probation with anything. Just like when we dating, we bring our representative. We don't show them in the beginning that we a piece of work. Sometimes I need you to have that same energy and that same attitude when you are coming and you are asking these people to employ you at their place of employment. So and I say pass your probation because when you pass your probation, which typically for most places is going to be within 90 days, sometimes it can be within 6 months. It depends on the type of job that you have. But for the most part, most probations are going to be within 90 days. You're going to know the temperature of your atmosphere. So you've been working at this institution now for 90 days. If you feel comfortable enough, yeah, you can add your nails. You can, add your dyeing of your hair a little bit or whatever. But at the end of the day, remember, you are a representation not only of yourself but of this corporation. You will be able to make um, in my opinion, you should be able within 90 days, you should be able to gauge the temperature of the atmosphere you're in. Because what they are not going to be able to do is dismiss you, but I can promise you, get comfortable with that position unless you plan on leaving that organization. Because when you come out and you start looking like, like you going to the club and stuff like that, they're going to leave you right where you are. Even if you are skillful wise, you're able to move up to the next level, because what you don't see is you don't see us in these board meetings and corporate meetings looking like that. You don't see it because it doesn't exist. You will be hindered. They're not going to tell you that. I'm telling you that. You will be hindered. You will be, as they said, typecast in the acting world, right? You will only play the role that you came in there for. So if you're comfortable with that and you're content with that, then glory be to God, do you. But if you're looking to advance, I suggest you pay very close attention to your surroundings. And if you plan on moving up, I suggest you look at what, no matter what color they are, look at the attire of the management. Look at how they come to work. One of the things that caught me off guard when, especially when I got into what you call it, into the HR field, was a lot of the executives, like the only thing they didn't do on Fridays was they didn't wear a tie. Like if you saw them in a pair of jeans or whatever, it was, you had to speak on it. It was just like, oh my gosh, Tom, like look at you, like, because you could work a couple of years and never see this man in a pair of jeans. And even with that, you didn't see him in a pair of jeans and sneakers. He still had on a pair of shoes. You know what I mean? He still had on like a button-up shirt. He may not have had
Right.
a tie with it, but even with that. So if this is what you aspire to be, back to Felicia Hudson, um, dress for the job you want, not for the job you have and or at that time are applying for. That's it, and that's all. It's your judgment.
And
It's
one
your judgment.
and one last thing that I want you to discuss.
Mhm.
How important is social media going to affect your job? Because
Oh,
a lot of companies, and I see that it didn't used to be so important
mhm.
up until this last election. Not to bring politics into this,
Right, right.
but now you're seeing on social media where people are calling for other people to get fired based on the posts that they make on social media. So
Absolutely.
what advice would you give someone that's trying to move up in corporate America or that's trying to land a job, that's a higher paying salary? Because let's keep it real, if you have a what they call a lower paying wage, I
Mhm.
don't feel like it matters that much what you put on social media. But when you in management and when you're making a higher salary, or any salary, do you feel like social media is playing a part in what you're posting online these days?
So I would say I definitely more so, again, like you just said. See, social media is really relatively new, right? I remember we had MySpace. I never had that. I remember a couple of friends of mine were like on Black Planet. The first social media I personally ever had was Facebook back in 2009, right? So again, I had already had my corporate setting. So the first thing I would say is this: whatever job you're applying for, if you're going to have a social media page, please create a job resume with your full government name. Please don't have Miss Boogie Down at Gmail as your email. No, no. So the first thing you want to do is you want to know how to separate church and state. And by separating church and state, you gotta have your government. I have three different emails. I have my social media email, which is Miss Boogie Down. I have my government name
Your
email.
your 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 it's kind of
Sorry,
hard to hear you. Something going on. It's
sorry.
kind of
Is this
muffled.
better?
Yeah, that's a lot better.
Okay,
Thanks.
sorry. Yep. So to answer your question, I have three personal emails, right? I have Miss Boogie Down. That's my social media. Um, what you call it? For YouTube. I have I still kept my AOL for my Facebook and any other outfits like that, like an Instagram and stuff like that. And then I have my professional government name email. Whatever email you do, I'm going to tell you what employers are doing that they're not telling y'all, but this is how they find out a lot of things. They're tracking the email address that they have for you, that they notify you it's that you're applying for a job with, and they're looking on social media to see what you got going on. They're putting your name. So on my Facebook, it's funny. I use not only my middle initial, but I put a hyphen in there. So even if you knew my married name, even if you know my maiden name, you are not going to be able to find me on social media unless you know me personally. Now, personally, I don't put anything on Facebook that's going to cost me, or TikTok, which is going to cost me my job. One of the worst things you can do is have an alias, right? So you think you're scot free because like I said, on TikTok, I'm Miss Boogie Down. On Facebook, it's my name, but it's hyphenated. So unless you know that and know my name and know it's hyphenated, and I don't disclose which last name I use, whether it be my married name or my maiden name, but it's hard to find me. Not that you couldn't find me. And privatize your social media. Make it private. When you let it be public, because everybody's got this, young mentality. I don't care. Yeah, yeah. See what I'm saying? Yeah, yeah. Follow me, itch. Yeah, yeah, yeah. These chicks want to stun on me. They want to see what I'm doing. Blah, blah, blah. No, those are career enders. Because now what the bosses are doing, and you got snitches at workplace environments, and they're going and they're telling. I don't have anybody that I work with on my social media at all. At all. And the reason being is because when you have those moments when you want to vent and you're like, oh, this is my page, I never mention my employer. None of my friends could tell you on social media, could point out anything where I've ever put my employer on there. So I can say, yeah, my bosses are getting on my nerves. Like, I'm tired of these workers and this, that, and the third. But A, none of my bosses and none of my workers are on my social media. B, my social media is private. And C, yeah, I'm not listing the name of that employer because people have lost their jobs. I have a girlfriend who's in the HR field for a very well known logistic company. They wear brown. And even though they are a unionized company, I've seen people basically lose their jobs because of defamation of their employer. Yo, UPS ain't shit. Da, 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 da. Home Depot, they ain't shit. Okay, we ain't shit. Hey, come in. Bye bye. That's defamation of your employer. That's character assassination of your employer. Why would you do that? But this is the day and age that we're in. And because these employers are figuring it out, what happens is, even for those jobs that think that they're protected because they're in the union, when these contracts are getting renegotiated, they are factoring that in. So when you're actually signing your name on the dotted line that you accept that you're going to be employed by this company, you better read the fine print, because they're telling you, if you XYZ, and if you defame us and blah blah blah, and especially thinking and don't be stupid enough, please, to say your employer's name or your direct manager's name, you will be losing your job. And the union will tell you, yeah, we can't fight for that because it's actually part of the morals part of the contract. So know your job, know who you're signing up with, and if you must, which I don't know why, but if you must vent, please don't mention nobody's name directly. Please don't mention the name of where you work directly. And please don't mention your direct hiring manager, because if you go and you defame them and they get word of that, yeah, it's bye-bye. There goes your career. There goes your career. And some of these jobs, like at Home Depot, at UPS or whatever, these people are making a nice living with very limited, requirements in terms of, you can be making close to, with this last contract that I believe UPS negotiated, a driver can be making $49 an hour by the year of 2028. And all that person, male or female, needs is a diploma. So why would you jeopardize that? You can make six figures with just having a high school diploma, and you're going to jeopardize that to defame your employer because you had a bad day at work or one of your customers got on your nerves. You're going to defame that because you wanted to come in with your green hair that ain't matching with their brown uniform, and your long pointy nails, which actually could hinder the job that you do, and actually you can hurt yourself. You want to get mad at them, but yet you have little skills and little education, and you still can make more than some of us who have actually graduated from college, and you want to put that at jeopardy to express yourself with green hair. I seen a young lady, through TikTok, who made a TikTok, and she had green hair, and she was saying how UPS, her manager, had the audacity to talk to her about her hair, and they better know because that's discrimination. No, stupid. Actually, your appearance, just like body odor, can get you actually suspended from your job because it's not in correlation with their uniform. And if they feel like you look like Bozo the Clown with your damn green and pink hair while you're delivering those packages and coming in contact with the public, then they have a reason and have grounds for suspension and or termination. Why? Because you signed a contract and it is in your contract with your union. So don't think just because you got a union backing you up, yeah, it makes it harder than the average person to lose your job, but you can catch the smoke too. Because what you fail to realize is we're so busy signing on the dotted line and we so excited about these big paychecks, you didn't read the fine print. And your hair and your body odor for some of the men who come in there. I mean, my girlfriend and I, we've been friends since we were in college. She's worked for UPS for damn near 30 years. And she's just like, in general, like she's also in the human resource field. And she's like, you'd be surprised. Like I have to send you home and tell you to wash your uniform because you smell. You was off this weekend, or at least for most part, UPS workers either work Monday through Friday or Tuesday through Saturday. So everybody's off on Sunday. There is no UPS delivery on Sunday. And I'm not talking about the UPS store. I'm talking about the delivery drivers. And you dare walk in somebody's establishment on a Monday morning and singe their nose hairs because you smell, because your uniform is dirty, because you stink, and you get free uniforms throughout the year. That makes no sense. So that makes no sense to the employer. So they're gonna sit your behind down. And if they gotta sit you down and have the same conversation with you too many times, guess what that union is gonna tell you? It was nice representing you, but at this point, the panel has decided that yeah, we can't utilize you anymore. But you thought because you had a route where all of the customers appeared to be nice to you and appeared to like you, you thought somebody was gonna rally behind you and get you your job back. Boy, bye, girl, bye. Get the hell up out of here and go find something else. Why lose your job for that? So back to the original, like I'm saying, like you having a bad day, you don't need to be sitting up there and putting your employer and stuff like that on blast. They're really, because social media is so new, there really isn't any guidelines at this point. But at these work at will state types of companies that you are not in a union, they don't need much reasons to let you go. But you insulting your employer is a form of defamation of character. And therefore, yes, they can ask you to please leave their establishment. And it was nice having you. Thank you very much. God bless and good luck with your future endeavors. And that's it, and that's all. So even being in a union is not a guaranteed protection. And again, it goes back to the advice that I was given that I love to share with anyone. Dress for the job you want, not for the job you have. And now, if you're okay and content with being a delivery driver, and that is the honest, good living you can make and take care of your family, put your kids through school, it is an honest, good living with very good wages and benefits that cover your entire family, that's not coming out your check, then hey, and absolutely, Lady T Bug, no, every company has a code of conduct. It is part of what you sign, and it is part of the morals clause. And like I said, as these companies are getting into adapting to social media, they are updating those codes of conducts too. So even when you're in situations where you have a contract, Look at your old contracts or your original contracts versus the new ones. It's the same thing like with your job titles. You look at your job title 10 years ago and the duties, and then look at what it is currently. Yeah, things change because life is changing.
Exactly. And actually, with a lot of jobs, you're still representing your company whether you're
Absolutely.
working or not. Especially if you
Absolutely.
like on the police force or whatever, they always have to have a certain conduct that they have, a certain way that they have to conduct themselves, whether they're in the public or
Absolutely.
not. And if you're a CEO of a company or a COO or even just a frontline worker, you still representing your company. So you definitely want to be careful what you put on social media and how you conduct yourself on the outside. And I think a lot of people, like you said, I think they get the Constitution mixed up with their job.
First
Uh,
of all, they don't even know the union book, right?
right.
And so, therefore, because you wouldn't even make the dumb statement you're making about the Constitution. So, if you don't even know the damn union and you're paying dues into that, I know for damn sure you don't know the Constitution. You just saying some shit that you heard from
Well, there a lot of people feel like they have freedom of speech,
uh-huh.
you know
It's
and
free until
and
it ain't
they
free.
they and I think they get their freedoms mixed up with their company guidelines and expectations, because like you
Absolutely.
said, every job have a moral code.
Yep.
Every job have a code of conduct, and
Absolutely.
you have to conduct yourself in a certain way, even if you're out in the public when you work for a certain job. Now,
Mhm.
as far as you even have to be careful with, some people like to work, but they also like to have a side hustle. You have
Right.
to ensure that your side hustle is not a conflict of interest with the job that you have.
Yes,
So you
ma'am.
have to be cognizant of that also.
Yes, ma'am. And that's why I remember you was asking me a minute ago in terms of like guidelines and being able to actually, produce like a channel where I can give into that. That's what I'm looking into, like legally, and I'm not in a rush or whatever, but even doing what I'm doing right here, I know that this is not against our code of conduct, but as far as establishing my own channel, and still being employed by my employer, I definitely will have a lawyer look over my code of conduct, versus what I can bring to my channel and what I can promote, because I need to make sure that I can promote, more. I want to be able, excuse me, I want to be able to give you recommendations of companies, but I need to make sure that that's not a conflict because I'm not promoting my company. You know what I'm saying? um, or can I promote my company and have my own business yet still be somebody's employer? You know what I'm so
Exactly. You definitely got to make
employee
sure it's not a conflict of
conflict
interest,
of interest.
because, and also you need, you'll have to definitely read the guidelines of YouTube, because they do say something about that too, as far as promoting products. And so you definitely have to be cognizant of
Hmm.
what you're doing when you're working. If you value your job, now if you don't care, you can do what you want to do.
Hmm.
If you feel like you can just go get another job, if this one lets you go, then have at it. But at the end of the day, you have to dot the I's and cross the T's when you're working for these other companies. Now, if you're an
Absolutely.
entrepreneur, you have free will. You can conduct yourself in however manner you want to. But when you're working for someone else, you definitely have to watch what you say, watch what you do,
Hmm.
be cognizant of where you go, who you hang out with, and how you conduct yourself outside the office, because it actually does matter more than ever in this day and time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so I got about 25 minutes I could finagle with you, and then I have to get off. But
Okay,
um
it's no problem.
But my whole thing is, and again, I just, bring it back down to, I know, especially, even though I think you had a couple of gentlemen that popped in, and hey fellas, like I said, my target goal as a black woman is to just empower us with just the knowledge, you know what I mean? Now, if you choose to do with it something, that's great. If you don't, just the mere fact that at least I know that I've shared to you your options, because again, these are the guidelines that has made me the person who I am. I am a giver. I am a sharer. I don't want to be at the party by myself. I want to be at the party and I want us all winning. That's just my personality. That's just who I am. There is, in my opinion, there is no celebration in having this big kingdom, queendom, whatever you want to call it, and you have nobody there with you to share it with. We are created as human beings to share with one another, to commune with one another, to grow with one another. And so being by yourself and being a loner, these are cool things with certain things. But in life,
Hmm.
I feel like it's selfish of me to know certain things and not share it with my people. Now, like I said, I'll work with anybody, and anybody who wants my help, I will help you. But my target audience is my women. My target audience is my black women, my black men, and our brown people as a whole. I have a lot of Latinos, a lot of Indians that I am very cool with. And I just see, especially as women, how underrated, how undervalued we are, not just on the workplace, but in life. And if I can share some tools with you, and you just take a chance on yourself, always bet on you. If nobody else is in your corner, you got to be your biggest cheerleader. We look at sometimes some of these people and you like, how in the hell is she winning? How in the hell is he winning? Because no matter what it may look like to us, that person is betting on themselves, and they're getting acknowledgement, recognition, and they're getting people following them, because at the end of the day, even if it's ratchetness, right? There's a
Hmm.
community for everybody, right? So
Yes, yes.
you you
Say
you
that one more time for the people in the
if,
back room.
okay,
But
if
but
there,
but before you go into that, let me just give one more pointer, one more thing that I want to say,
Mhm.
and one thing that I noticed when I was in the workforce. Folks, please, when you go to the Christmas party, when you go to the office party, make sure that you don't drink too much. I've seen
uh,
so many coworkers go to the office party
uh,
and get totally lit and get looked at a totally different way
mhm.
once the party is over with and you're going back to work, and you think you may gonna get that promotion. Well, that one drink too many may prevent you from getting that promotion. So it's okay to mingle, it's okay to go to the office party or what have you, but just make sure that you know your limit when you're drinking around coworkers and when you're drinking at the office parties, because we're in the season now. We're getting ready to be in the season where a lot of companies are going to be having office parties for
Oh
whatever
yes,
reason.
oh
And so I just want to give everybody heads up to, limit your intake when you're around your coworkers and when you're at your office party. So I just want to throw that out there.
yes.
I don't know if you were going to cover that or not, but I just remember when I was at the office party. Thank God I don't drink like that, and I saw a lot of people kind of get themselves in trouble.
Well, me personally, I always look at the company that you work for, because a lot of times, even though that is a very good key piece of advice, I'm gonna tell you who the problem are at them office parties. It's us. It's the management. It's not really so much the subordinate. It be the management, and especially if you got that executive or that VP and he left his wife home, watch him. Stay all the way the hell away from him, because you're gonna learn something about
Amen.
him.
Or either the because the CEO, I was like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
don't you
Mm-hmm.
realize,
Mm-hmm.
you're the manager of everybody.
Uh-huh.
You can't approach me like that, sir.
Mm-hmm.
And his wife was right there, and I was totally embarrassed. The
Mm-hmm.
way he groveled over the way that I looked, and I was like, wow, and I didn't know what to say, because you're the manager over everybody.
Right,
And
right,
so you
right.
can't do that to your subordinates. And I know alcohol had a part in it, because, the following Monday, I was called into the office to get an apology. you
Hmm.
know, and
And
to
that's
make
what I was
sure
about to say.
that I didn't spread
That
the
you didn't
rumors or
spread
what
the
have
word.
you, you
Hmm.
know. But I took it with a grain of salt. But that's why I'm warning people because, like you said, yeah, a lot of times it is management, higher management at that, because it
Oh,
actually happened to me.
they let their hair down. They just
Yes,
they
yes, ma'am.
outside. That's a new phrase the kids are saying, right, Vaughn? That they outside. They outside on this one.
Hmm.
And and they showing it all. And what I did was, one of the things I will also say when you are in, a team and a corporate environment as well, don't not attend some of the functions. You got to show that you have an outside appearance. I know a lot of people will say, oh no, I don't do, I'm not the type, even till this day, I'm not the type to do drinks and stuff like that with coworkers. No, but office functions, I may not attend every year, but I do make a presence in. And the reason being is because people do still want to see you outside and get a gauge of your personality outside of the workplace, right? Now, because I'm not the type that I'm not having you all over at my house and I'm not going to yours either. I do attend a couple of like office functions like every other year. Now that I'm single, I did attend them usually annually, and I always brought my husband because I knew that no matter what, even if I even had a thought of acting crazy, it wasn't gonna happen because I had my husband there. But um, being solo dolo, if you will, I still, and I'm older now, so I thank God for wisdom. I do know how to conduct myself, but I don't totally exclude myself from all and every excursion because it also speaks kind of like volumes in terms of you. When you are in a management position, people have to know that they can approach you, they have to trust you, and they have to trust your judgment. That's what's going to make your team successful because even if they don't agree with you, just knowing that they feel like they can approach you or even, talk to you or ask you questions, um, is also makes them want to work harder for you, and work harder with you. And they want to make you proud. You want to make management proud. And as well as, there's a pride in yourself. If you totally exclude yourself from these functions and people don't really get to see you outside of a work environment, it just kind of makes them gauge, and then it makes their imaginations run wild, right? We become creative and we make up shit in our mind. So therefore, if I show you me with my hair let down, but like I said, what I said, I will say it like me. I'm not a heavy drinker, never have been, but I'll have a drink, but I'll nurse that drink if there's alcohol there. That drink is my drink for the night. Um, and I'm engaging in conversation, and if you come and you brought your spouse or you brought a relative like your sibling or something like that, your mom or your dad, I'm engaging there because I want you to know that you can approach me, and I want you to know that you can talk to me. Now, I'm not getting too personal with you. That's why I said I don't attend people's private functions or whatever. I'm always going to politely decline because I just don't want to get too comfortable in certain situations or have anybody have expectations. But I do attend the company functions and engage with staffing outside of the office just to show, personality, and just to show that, we can talk, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And stuff like that. And yes, it does depend on the field that you're in, but you always, no matter what field that you're in, if you're in management, you always want to have your staff to know that they can trust you and that they can come to you. You don't want to be standoffish completely. And I don't care that that's applicable to any field, Minion. But yes, it does depend on the fields that you're in. But at the end of the day, your staff should always have a gauge of you personally, like I said, but it doesn't, you determine how personal that's going to be. And for me, I'm not going to be, like I said, in your home. I'm not having you in my home. I do believe in separation of church and state. And that's why I said as well a little earlier, I don't have my coworkers on my social media. Absolutely not. That's none of your business. What I need you to know about me, my family, and my friends, I'll share with you. And again, I'm not even on social media wilding out, or as they say, acting crazy. It's not even like that, but it's just no, it's just certain things that you
Yeah.
need to know, and it's just certain things that sometimes we just overshare, just because of our personalities, and then you find out people ain't who you thought they was. And had you taken a little bit more time and been a little bit more discreet, you probably would have been able to figure that out before they stab you in the back. So therefore, you know, you want to have, just boundaries.
Let me backtrack one little bit before you head out of here, because I know you have about 10 minutes and you have to roll out.
Hmm.
Um, as far as the interview go, because
Yes,
I just want to make sure that I help these people get a job if they want one,
absolutely.
especially our young
Absolutely.
people, because these are things our young people don't understand and don't know. And in some instances, when you go to the job, try to be as professional as possible when you're speaking. Try to leave your street lingo, at the door,
Yes.
and try to use, it's not so much that you got to act like you're somebody else, or what we call quote unquote proper, but be proper in the interview so that you can get the job.
And let me tell you something
Yes,
that
yes,
we
yes.
didn't
Try not to use
neglect.
all of that main and
Yes,
all that
absolutely.
slang, and try to leave that at the door, because a company
Absolutely.
don't want you representing them, speaking, street lingo. Now, like I said, once you get the job after your 90 days, you can do what you want to do. But while
Hmm.
you're trying to get that job, make sure you just dot all the I's and cross all the T's.
And also with that, let me talk to my people. Let me talk to my people. Punctuality. Have mercy. If you are on time, you are late. I'm going to say that again. If you are on time, you are late. You get to that job interview 10 to 15 minutes early. I wouldn't OD and be there a whole hour early, because now you just look like a stalker and you look too eager. But again, you don't want to come in because you don't know what paperwork. And some jobs will nowadays, we become more of a virtual, right? So they'll send you like the paperwork that they need you kind of like to fill out, like your name and all that other good stuff. They'll send that to you in advance. But look at your what you call it. Look at your need to be at this company and know that you are representing who you are and you are auditioning. Always look at these job interviews as an audition. If
like
I
like
get
why
there,
like why you want the job, be able
why
to
I
answer.
want the
Yeah,
job.
be able to answer that question, because they're going to ask you, what can you bring to my, what can you bring to the company. So definitely you want to answer those questions before you get there.
Absolutely. Even with this right here, I said what I said. I'll tell you, and I love that she did that. She set this up a little early so we could do like a mic check and all that other good stuff. I was early, and then I hit her up, and I was just like, "Hey, I'm here," and she's like, "Yeah, I see you. I'm just getting some things together." But at the end of the day, if you're on time, you are late. Like, look at it like that. Your interview is at 2 o'clock. You need to be there between 1:45, 1:50. Why? Because now you got to figure out where you're going. And then once you get there, you want to be comfortable. If you're logging on to something and you're doing an interview on online or whatever have you, still, even your upper body, I get it, you're not showing them your full body, still come out like you going out into the actual office to interview. Don't be comfortable in your damn t-shirt because you at home, and stuff like that. No, because they want to see you. So have that upper body making it look like you got on a whole suit. I don't care if you got your pajama bottoms on, hell, if you only got your panties or your underwears on, that's fine. But your upper body and everything, your appearance, you know what I mean? Have all of that on deck. Like, have that and log into that 5 to 10 minutes early. If you're doing it that way, if you're physically going in somewhere, try to get there like 15, no later than 10 minutes early to get situated. Because let me tell you, they're letting them know that you're there. And even though they're never going to see you on time, that the first thing they're asking that receptionist or whomever had, received your information when you came in and you set your appointment, the first thing that I ask is, what time did they sign in? I look at that sign and clipboard. Your interview is at 2 o'clock and you got there at 2:05. That's already a strike. It may not be a total, okay, that's a wrap. But if your interview is at 2 o'clock, you sign in that book at like 1:45. Hello. I'm sorry, your name? Hi, Jane. This is such and such. I have an interview at 2 o'clock. Oh, okay, no problem. Sometimes they'll say, okay, well, I'll have you fill this out and I'll let who are you coming to see? That's another thing. Please know who you're coming to see. You will be surprised how common this is. And I'm noticing it with the young people when they don't know your name. You don't know who you're interviewing. You know you got an interview, but you don't remember who you're interviewing with. Oh my God. What are you doing? What? But I've had that. It's not a common factor, but it has happened more than enough that I'm mentioning it to you because I remember it. And I was just like, oh wow. You know what I'm saying? So that's already again, you're coming in with a strike. Or I see you scruffling around. If I got a virtual interview with you and I'm doing it online, I see you muffling around, or you got kids. Find a private spot, lock that door, and you get them kids right. Do not interrupt mommy. She's got an interview. Do not interrupt daddy. He's got an interview. You cannot be sitting up here and have a whole bunch of chaos going on. And unfortunately, because you're interviewing and you're engaging, you can mess around and hitting that mute button where you think you're blocking out the noise behind you. It's not going to work. So you go to a quiet place and you make sure that your kids are trained enough that if you got some that are at home or whatever, that they are occupied or somebody is there entertaining them while you do this interview, because people are looking at that. Because what am I thinking? Even if this is a position where you predominantly are working at home, I do a lot of hybrid as I'm doing presently, but I took the afternoon off so that I can do this with I said what I said in Vaughn. But at the end of the day, I'm in, I don't have any little kids, bless God, but I'm in my work office in my house. I'm in a quiet place. So y'all couldn't even hear. I done had like 3 deliveries. My daggone ring bell done went off, and I seen it from my phone, but y'all didn't get to hear that. Background noises are a distraction because what I'm thinking is, okay, this person is working from home. How am I trusting that those 8 hours that I paid you for, you were actually working and you weren't maintaining to your family or all the distractions you got going on? So you want to be on your P's and Q's and just know your interview is your audition. We are looking at everything, even though you think we're not. I'm looking at your body language. I'm looking at your, when I'm asking you questions, I'm looking at, and I'm not in the recruiting phrase anymore, but usually I'm interviewing for other like upper level positions and stuff like that. Once my recruiter for my department is like, okay, this person passed this part of it. And then when I'm engaging with you, I'm looking at all of that. I'm looking at your body language. I'm looking at you maintain eye contact. That's something that I've noticed with a lot of younger people. And I get it, it's your nerves. But even with me coming out, one thing I did was I engaged very much eye contact. If you are having an in-person interview, make that handshake a very strong handshake. Ladies and men, get a firm grip on that person's hand when you are shaking and thanking them for that interview. If everything is virtual, send them an email thanking them within a day, thanking them for taking the time to interviewing you, and you're looking forward to hearing from them if they feel that you're a candidate for the job. Like it's just different things that you want to be always letting them know that you're engaged and that you're interested in. Because sometimes we'll have like a requisition and um when you have an interview and stuff like that for these jobs, it's really a projected date. So don't think because they haven't contacted you, like you usually, if you get a response right away, it's actually letting you know that um, that they're not interested. But if it's taking them a while, just know you're still in the running. So you still want to make contact. So you make that initial contact. Back in my day, and I'm sure I said what I said, and before her, people older than her, they will tell you they used to send thank you cards. You remember that I said what I said? Like thanking the employer for interviewing you.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
remember that.
So
Yeah.
now we're of the age where we now are more so like email
They'll
driven,
send you an
right?
email at this
So
point. Yeah.
now send the email and thanking, Lady T Bug for hearing your time, Scorpio Mama for hearing you out, Chocolate Drop, thank you for taking the time out your schedule to interview me. Minion, thank you for taking the time for interviewing me. If you are in person, like I said, make that handshake, make that firm, make that eye contact. Don't get in the habit of looking away. Even if they're looking away, don't worry about them. You make sure you maintain eye contact so that every time they look at you, they see that you're making eye contact with them and they're taking what you're saying seriously. If you look distracted or you look like you're easily distracted and you got other things going on, it's just making me project. And I could be wrong, but I'm projecting that you're easily distracted. How focused can he or she be on the task at hand? How driven are they going to be? Like, because clearly this person, how can they govern the department? How can they manage a department under me? Now I got to do my job in there. So my job is to get people in play that can make my job as easier as possible. Like I said, I can do all of my department's jobs, but at the end of the day, I also want to be able to teach people how to work at the level that I work at, because I'm looking still myself to grow and grow. And I can't do that if I can't build people up with me. I don't have fear that, I trained you and you do the job just as good as me, if not better. Then I did my damn job. And that makes me look better to my employer. And I can boast about that. Well, I said what I said. I trained Vaughn. I trained, Chocolate Drop. And this is why, you got the success out of them. That came from me. So that's letting you know I can do more and I can be more. And guess what? You're going to pay me more too. But at the end of the day, just always know during that interviewing process, whether it be virtual or whether it be in person, you always want to let that employer know that you are thankful for their time. And then if 2 weeks go by and you don't hear anything, it's never anything wrong with, shooting another email. You're not looking desperate, but you're just looking like, you're still interested. You know what I mean? Because sometimes with these processes, I know, like, I hate the onboarding process with us before they finalize and everything. The interviewing process will be about 2 to 3 weeks. And then there's another lay of periods of when we're figuring out who we're getting down to the next candidate. And then we'll reach out again. So it could be like about 3 to 4 weeks before you hear from us that you're going to the next round of interviewing. And then usually by then, after you've passed the initial and then you've interviewed with us, usually within a 2 week turnaround time, I'll let you know. And I'll even let you know that at the interview, like, I'll be contacting you within the next 2 weeks. What's your earliest start time or whatever? So you're kind of gauging, like, okay, I still am in the runnings and this, that, and the third. And again, I don't care. Every time you interview with somebody, every time even if you interview, as now they do these team things, right? And it's a group of y'all interviewing. You make sure that you stand out in that interview, and you make sure that that company knows that you're interested in being one of their employees, and you reach out to the staff or to the individual who interviewed you and let them know that you were thankful for their time and hearing you out.
Okay. Well, Miss Boogie Down,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
want to personally thank you for coming out and sharing all of these valuable gems that you've dropped in on the Waiting to Exhale channel today. We do appreciate your presence.
I appreciate it.
Yes, and I will make sure that I send you a thank you email.
Yes, ma'am. I'm looking. I'm looking.
Yeah, because I just listen, and
Oh,
so I'm gonna make sure that I send you out a thank you email, and thank you so much. This has been a great and informative live, and I appreciate you sharing all of your knowledge that you have shared with us today.
yes.
Hopefully, someone, I saw a message where Minion said a lot of young people are not gonna probably take this advice. But like Alice said, if it can just help one person, I know it's already helped one person, because one person was in the chat saying that they didn't know that they could negotiate their salary, i.e., Tanya B. So
Right.
I know we're reaching someone, and so the goal, whoever want to use it and whoever it resonates with, well, good luck, and hopefully, you can land that job. But I guarantee you, you'll be more successful by listening to this live and following these guidelines than you would if you didn't. So,
Absolutely.
so I just want to take my hat off to you, sis. I salute
Oh,
you.
appreciate you.
Thank you for interviewing on
Yeah,
the Women Empowerment Channel. And just
absolutely.
because it's the Women Empowerment Channel doesn't mean we have some guys that hang out with us. We like to call them our security. Okay.
Yes, yes,
But
yes.
that, the men know that they're more than welcome on this channel, because this has been valuable. Has been some valuable information. I've even learned a few things from listening to you talk. So I do take my hat off to you, and we
Yeah.
appreciate you coming out and taking the time out to do this interview.
Oh, well, I thank you very much. And it's always my pleasure. And I even thank you for some of the content creators that you recommended to me, that I've been on, as a subscriber for them. It's been a wonderful journey, in this chapter in my life, being at 52 years of age, being on this side of 50. I've learned that, I can build all kind of communities, and this virtual family that, has been bestowed upon me from your channel, Lady T Bugs, and a few other content creators. It's just awesome. And I'm so grateful. So it is my utmost pleasure. And I speak in that manifestation. As long as you and Vaughn keep up this momentum, I know your subscribers and everything will manifest to the numbers where you ain't even going to be able to give shout outs to everybody. It's going to be so many more people in that chat, right? Um,
Right, right.
and that's it, and that's all, and that's okay. You know what I mean? I'm just grateful that I get to say I knew her when she was just starting it out and everything. I can honestly say this has been a pleasure. And last but not least, I see, Lady T Bug was saying that she never worked remotely, and this is my first time in life where I've had a hybrid, type of job. I go into my job and I close out in the evening, but during the day I'm working from home. Now, like I said, I don't play when it comes to my money. I took this afternoon off, and I will be going back my time. I will start heading into the office about 5 o'clock. But I say all of that to say, like, life is changing, and you couldn't have told me that this would be even me. Like I said, I'm not really big on social media, but even down to meeting this community here and doing this what I'm doing now, you never would even be able to tell me that this is where I would be. So one thing that I know is that life is always evolving, it's always changing, we're always growing, and I just want to grow, with it, and just be able to be, not only a pillar in my community, but I want to be a blessing to my race. I want to be a blessing to my sisterhood, because as a woman, I will end this the way we started this. And this is just not just segued to just a job. Know your worth. As a Black woman, know your worth. Know that you are better than most of the things that we settle for. And when you walk out with that confidence and you walk with your head held up high, you don't even have time to look at who's looking down on you, right? Because you looking up. And that's it. And that's all. I give all glory to God. And I thank you. I said what I said. I thank you, Vaughn. I know she's been in and out. She's probably got things going on with her children. But
Hmm.
it's been a pleasure. Everybody in the chat, it's really truly been my honor, and it's been my privilege to just share what I know. And as I'm growing, I will continue to share.
And thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate this interview. Like I said, thank you for taking the time out to even just give us the interview. And until we see you next time, have at it. Have a great evening at work. I know you're gonna be listening in the bushes.
Yes, ma'am.
And one more thing I just want to say, I never thought I was gonna be on social media either, believe it or not. I've always, been that person that can talk, but I never thought that I would be talking on social media. Never thought I would have a page. Just like you said, life just be life, and then things just kind of fall in your lap sometimes. So here we are.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. And I love this virtual family that I'm getting to just know so many people
Yes.
indirectly. This is cool, and it's
Yes, and,
nice
and
to
and
have
one more
a
thing about that too, about the virtual family. The virtual family is all about networking. So
place.
you said that you appreciate me for introducing you to other content creators, but that's what it's all about. It's like it's one big happy family, and The more you network, the more you get to, learn about different people and different channels and different things. So you don't have to be just stuck in one community. So that's the one thing that I like. That's the one reason why I try to network with other channels, just so that I can have a variety of channels and I just won't get stuck on one thing.
Absolutely. And especially us as black women, let your hair down, have fun. Live this life. Life is meant to be lived. Have fun. We don't have to be so closed off sometimes because I've gotten that even about myself and I've taken that, and I no longer get offended. I've often said, well, what about me makes you feel like I'm not approachable or closed off? And I engage in conversation. I don't take criticism as insults. I sometimes I take in some of the things I've heard and I'm like, yeah, no, that's not me, that's you. And then there's a lot of times where I've even learned to say, okay, that's another viewpoint. And I've learned that even over these last couple of years of being so active on social media and following some of the things that we're talking, when we follow and stuff like that. And I've learned to be a little bit just more open. Like I said, I'm not ever encouraging anybody to completely let their guard down. You better know that not everybody that says that they for you are for you. So definitely use your wisdom. But, live your life and just smile and enjoy because life is for the living. And if somebody is not in there that's not appreciating of you, it's okay to just say, well, it was my pleasure having you in my life, but I got to make this exit stage left. And that's it. And that's all. And just go on to
Hmm.
the next. You know what I mean? I show love to those who show love to me. And that's it. I'm not forcing myself on anybody and I'm not going to be forced, on anyone. Like at the end of the day, what you see is pretty much what you get. I can promise you that even in my everyday life, I'm pretty much this person. You know
Exactly.
what I mean? So,
Well,
but
we
it's been
pretty much
great.
gauge that because when you're the same today, yesterday, and forever, like the Lord, you can pretty much gauge how people are. So
Absolutely.
like you said, if you just use your discernment, you can figure out what's what.
Absolutely. And just remember, again, I said this earlier on, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And since we focus this on our careers, even in your everyday life of just wanting to meet somebody and introduce yourself, again, listen, at the end of the day, you already where you are, which is your starting point. If you see another area you want to get to or a person you want to meet or whatever, you shoot your shot. If it's blocked, it's blocked. But at least you know in your heart you shot your shot and you took a chance. And it's their loss, not yours.
Well, all righty then.
Because as you can see, I don't lack confidence.
No, not at all. And I don't either. So
That's right. That's right. But
you
it's
know.
been my utmost pleasure, and everybody have a great day. And
And
I
thank
said
you
what I
so
said,
much
keep
again.
doing. Yes, and keep doing what you're doing, sis. I appreciate you.
All right. Okay, then. So I'm going to drop you down and then just say goodbye to everybody.
Yes.
And like
Goodbye,
I said,
everybody.
I'll see you in these YouTube streets, girl.
Yes, you will. Have a
All
blessed
righty.
day.
All right. Bye bye. And so, guys, that wraps up today's show. I would like to thank Miss Boogie Down for coming out and giving us all, dropping all the wonderful gems that she dropped. I hope someone got something out of this live today. I know it's been effective because, like, I've been reading the chat and highlighting the chat, so I know some people got something out of this live. And if you don't mind, if you haven't already, go ahead and make sure you hit the like button if you enjoyed the show. Subscribe to the channel, to the Waiting to Exhale channel, Von's Reality channel, and I Said What I Said channel if you haven't done that already. And share out this live. So, we don't want to be gatekeepers. Share it out so that other people can maybe get this valuable information. And I guess Von is probably not going to get to come back. Something must have happened or what have you. But I'm glad that you guys were able to come out and share this experience with Waiting to Exhale channel. We will be back next Wednesday at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. And until then, goodbye, everybody.